Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where today we are here with another tips and tricks video, which is how to make whipped ganache. This is actually the start, sort of like a mini series, I guess, of the next few weeks, where I'm going to be showing you each different stage of making a drip cake. But for me, I always start with whipped ganache first because it takes a little bit of time to make, but so does ganache when you're covering the outside of the cake anyway. So this is a simple video on that delicious frosting, which I think is slightly out of this world because it's usually just chocolate and cream. So why would I not like it? But this is how I make my whipped ganache personally, and I'll go through the different sort of ratios of chocolates if you want to use them instead, but this is my personal favorite, whipped ganache. So when it comes to ganache, it's one of those things that there are lots of opinions on it, there's lots of fails, there's lots of like successes with ganache, and it's such a temperamental thing because it usually depends so much on the ratio that you use. For example, the stereotype for ganache is you use a ratio of 1:1 chocolate to cream for dark chocolate, 2:1 for milk chocolate, and 3:1 for white chocolate. This is due to the cocoa content in the chocolate, and this relies on you using the full fat dairy cream. So for example, in the UK, I use double cream. In America, you would use heavy cream. You want the fattiest liquid cream that you have to get the perfect ganache. I love making a whipped ganache personally because it makes it really moussey, light, delicious, and this is the perfect sort of frosting you could pipe onto a cupcake, put on a loaf cake, and also use on a drip cake, for example. I always tend to start with my whipped ganache in any situation because you have to make the ganache first of all, and I'm going to use it in the microwave. If you don't have a microwave, I will tell you how to do that later on. But it's the situation where you want to melt it all down, make your sort of the runny ganache, then it has to sit there for quite a while to get to a more thicker peanut butter-like consistency naturally, and then you whip it up and it will lighten the colour, it will lighten it to a mousse-like texture, and it is just absolutely silky smooth and wonderful. So my favourite one though is a mix of dark chocolate and milk chocolate, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about that. My favourite sort of ganache that I've used on a fair amount of recipes at this point is actually a mixture of dark chocolate and milk chocolate. So I will put this recipe in the description box below just to make sure you know exactly what the weights are, but I tend to use 200 grams of dark chocolate and 150 grams of milk chocolate. Bearing in mind what I said earlier about the ratios of 1:1 and 2:1, you have to have a slightly different balance to the amount of cream because of the lower cocoa content of the milk chocolate. I then also have 300 mils of double cream here, and this is basically what we're going to put into the bowl. I'm going to melt it on a low heat, stirring often in the microwave until smooth. If you don't have a microwave, what you would then actually do is put your double cream in a pan, and you want to heat it until it's steaming, just starting to boil, and then pour it over your finely chopped chocolate or small pieces, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then stir it until smooth. Both methods work exactly the same. I just find the microwave one easier, so that's what I'm going to do today. But obviously, if you want to use any other ratio, try and aim for the same weight in total to be able to cover the cake in the same way that I do in the next few videos. So when it comes to the melting part in the microwave, I'm just going to pour all of my dark chocolate, milk chocolate and cream into this larger bowl, and then we're going to melt it until smooth. And now I'm going to melt it. And here we are, part way through melting. You can see it's getting a little bit bitty, but it definitely needs a little bit more time. As you can see, the ganache is coming together a lot smoother, and you can see the proper chocolatiness of it. Now that my ganache has melted and it's lovely and smooth and so chocolatey, we're going to let it sit. You can do this at room temperature, it does take a bit longer, or the fridge. You just need to keep an eye because it will chill on the sides of the bowl quicker, so it will set on the outside compared to the inside. But you basically want to let it sit until it's a thicker peanut butter-like consistency, then we can whip it to the lovely whipped ganache for the cake. So now it's been a little while since I made that ganache earlier, which you saw me pour, and thick. This is exactly what you're looking for. So I actually ended up putting this in the fridge for probably about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, and sort of throughout the process just made sure to stir it so it doesn't stick on the edge of the bowls like so. But again, you can put it at room temperature if you want, it just takes a little bit longer. But this is the perfect thick consistency that we're now going to whip. And you can use a stand mixer, but sometimes I find the big balloon whisks can sometimes catch the sort of ganache or the frosting incorrectly. So I'm actually going to use one of these with the beater attachments because I find it much easier. And we're just going to whip the ganache up until it's basically doubled in volume, lighter in colour, mousse-like, and absolutely delicious. And then we can go cover a cake, which I'm going to show you in another video later on, probably in about 2 weeks' time. But honestly, this is the best whipped ganache. Like I say, I'll put everything in the description box below. But just even now, I just want to eat it, if I'm honest. And there you have delicious whipped ganache. And that is how you make my delicious whipped ganache. It's the perfect frosting, it's thick, it's delicious, and it's perfect to cover a cake. So make sure to come back next time to watch how I fill and crumb coat a cake, and then the week after we're going to be using this to cover the cake as well. But either way, all the things in the description box below. Make sure to give me a thumbs up and a subscribe if you haven't already, and come back next time. Happy baking!